Big grind overall update, it became way easier and faster to progress in Dead by Daylight. Now, this is mostly a positive thing, especially for new players trying to catch up. However, it does have major drawbacks when it comes to balancing, especially for veteran players, and that will become increasingly more obvious in the months and years to come. To give you a quick example of what I'm blabbing about, I wanted some iridescent add-ons for Pinhead. Cringe, yeah, I know, but hold on. I spent 1
It's only
million
Engineer's Fang.
blood points
The box
and
one's
only
fine.
came away with 5 Engineer's Fangs, 2 Lemmet configurations,
The box
and
one's
1
okay.
Black Ward. Keep in mind, I have every perk for Pinhead, so these add-ons were the only thing I was aiming for on the Blood Web. That literally gives me 3 matches to use the build I want to use for 1 million blood points. So you might think, well, that's okay, they're really strong add-ons and they should be rare. Okay, but what happens when you spend exactly 1 million blood points on a survivor? And this is a survivor I haven't spent a single blood point on since the grind overhaul update was
I like that
released,
recolor
so I had
for you.
absolutely nothing for them. With 1 million blood points, I was able to get 36 medkits, with dozens of add-ons to make those medkits even stronger, and 15 map offerings, most of which are survivor favored while still unlocking perks at the same time. All of that as one single survivor. With 4 survivors in every match, those numbers are effectively quadrupled. A strong killer add-on is—
I've made this video before. I've made the video he's making, and nobody, it's not that nobody believed me, but we didn't like that video didn't get a lot of traction and nobody really cared about it. The amount of blood point, the dark side of the blood point overall and everything being cheaper is that more powerful items are more common. More powerful items are more common. You're running into more, eerie Weskers. You're running more into mother-daughter ring spirits. You're running more into brand new part survivors. You're running more into syringe survivors. You're running more into this stuff because it's quite literally cheaper. Like, it's quite literally cheaper to obtain these things. So of course you're going to be running into this stuff way more often. So that's a problem. That's a problem, right? But I think where he's going with this, just on his specific take, is that he specifically is going for the fact that since there's 4 survivors versus 1 killer, the odds that you're going to be running into like powerful map offerings and all those syringes and brand new parts more often, or even just like a good green medkit even alone, is just so much, right? Like that's going to really make a lot of matches really unfun.
Oppressive for sure. It's absolutely going to have a big impact on a match. That said, the map itself is going to play a bigger part by tenfold. Add to that not only multiple medkits, but toolboxes as well, and you have effectively created a system where matches are being won and lost in the pre-game lobby. This is incredibly frustrating.
This is why I hate that perks are so strong in Dead by Daylight. This is why I hate that perks are so strong in Dead by Daylight, and this now is extending to items and offerings as well, is like, the match shouldn't be decided in the pregame lobby. It really shouldn't. There's no reason I should lose because not no reason, but like, it feels crappy to lose because like, oh, I didn't bring the right stuff into the match. That feels like garbage. It feels garbage to lose just because you didn't bring the right things, but somebody brought strong things. That feels bad because in a versus environment, you want the skill to come up on top. You want whoever played the best to come out on top and not whoever brought the best stuff. So when, like, in this scenario, like he's talking about, he's right. It feels bad. It really does feel bad.
Both sides, because no matter how hard you're trying in a match, it doesn't really matter. You came in with your shoes untied and the other team didn't. Take a look at this solo queue match I played. I had an archive challenge to finish 2 generators, and I don't like failing challenges, so I put on a disgusting build with a bad ham offering to boost up my chances of completing it. Now, the killer rage quit after 5 gens were completed with 1 hook, but just look at these loadouts. I don't know if everyone was a solo queue player in this lobby, probably not, but still, dear God, look at these builds. As Dowsy put it, nobody told this hag player that it was 2022. We'll review some possible solutions to this in a second, but I want to quickly say that this is the true face of skill-based matchmaking.
Yeah.
There are very few, maybe zero players out there purposely trying to boost their own MMR to the max. There's just not really any reason to want to do that yet.
Yeah, because we like we talked about in his ranked versus unranked video, there's no like titles or anything. Like MMR's hit. So there's no physical reward for. There's nothing to brag about by having high MMR. There's really not. Like, there's nothing to flaunt. There's nothing to show people. Like, you can't even show people your number because it's visible. So it's not even that.
MM does is it creates an environment where everyone is expecting to sweat their balls off, and that is going to have a psychological effect on the way players approach matches. Mix that with the grind overhaul, and behavior has basically created a recipe for disaster. So there's really no reason not to bring strong items into every match. They're incredibly easy to get back if you happen to lose them. But can you imagine if a killer was able to bring iridescent add-ons as easily as survivors got medkits and map offerings?
I mean, they kind of do, right? Like, at this point, is like not at the frequency that survivors can. Not at the frequency, because it's like literally 4 people versus 1, right? Like, not at the same frequency. But like, there are plenty of matches today where we were fighting iridescent gamers, and that's been like ever since the Bloodpoint overhaul. That's been like terrifyingly more common to run into people running iridescent add-ons all the time. Like, it's terrifying. Like, it's literally like you're being forced to face the best stuff all the time, and that's not fun. Like, I feel like a lot of like the in-game balancing with DBD was balanced around the fact that like syringes, brand new parts, iridescent add-ons for killers were hard to obtain. Like when I'm playing Survivor at night and I run into a spirit, I have run into 9 out of 10 spirits that I run into are running Mother-Daughter Ring. 9 out of 10 spirits are running Mother-Daughter Ring. It used to be that like that wasn't the case. Like, Mother-Daughter Ring didn't get like buffed or anything. It's still as strong as it's ever been, and way too strong in my opinion. But like, because of the Bloodpoint overall, it's now just easier to have those. So whereas spirits you would get a spirit and sometimes they'd be running like recharge or stuff like that, or duration, because they just didn't have a whole lot of add-ons to waste. Now they're running Mother-Daughter Ring almost exclusively because, like, with the lower cost, there's no reason not to, because it's more plentiful. And that's why you see syringes almost, like, I run into syringes so often when I'm playing Killer now. It's like every other match I see at least one syringe. I used to, like, never see those, like, ever, at all. But now it's like it's literally all the time. It's literally all the time. It's crazy.
When you see it from both perspectives, the problem becomes a little bit more clear. So what can be done to fix this, or at least mitigate it to some degree before it gets completely out of hand and players are bringing in the best shit every single match? Yeah. Well, the most common argument I hear, especially from killer mains, is that survivors shouldn't be allowed to use map offerings at all, and medkits should be nerfed severely in one way or another. To address the first part, maps should just be balanced. There's way too many heavily survivor-sided maps in DBD, and I think that's the real issue.
Yeah, it's like going to there should the outliers should not exist. There should not be Fractured Cowshed, the game like Gideon Meatpacking Plant, and like Eyrie of Crows and Batum, and have that dreadful handful, and then have like Midwich and like I would say like Wreckers, Cold Tower's pretty fine. Like have there shouldn't be like this ability to like completely like dominate a match just because you brought a map offering. Like, the match should not be predisposed to that. Like, they really shouldn't. Like, the match shouldn't be built in a way that if I go there as a certain side, I'm just predisposed to winning. Like, yeah, there's going to be, like, survivor-sided maps, and there are going to be killer-sided maps, because you can't be perfect. That's like a perfect world. We don't live in a perfect world. But, like, they really should do a lot to try and mitigate the outliers. The fact that they passed over Fractured Cowshed, they remade Fractured Cowshed with the Coldwind update, with the Coldwind rework, and they left it literally the same way. Literally the same way. They're cool with that for some reason. They're cool with the way Fractured Cowshed is. Like, yeah, Fracture doesn't matter to somebody like Blight or Nurse, but like Myers, Pig, Clown, what do they do? What do they do on that map? And they're just cool with that. They need to not be cool with that. They need to not be cool with maps that are just incredibly strong for one side, and try to like condense those and condense them.
It would be much healthier in the long run to address that directly rather than putting a band-aid over.
I agree.
In the short term, they could look at doing something like making a single survivor map offering only being worth a 25% chance, so it still means something, but it's not as strong as a killer map offering. Getting rid of map offerings altogether would suck a lot of the fun builds out of the game, in my opinion, so
yeah.
I'm against that unless something like a ranked playlist was to be added to the game. Alright, so what about medkits? Should the healing speed be slowed down?
And he kind of dashes over this too. Is like, there's a lot of killer builds that are really obnoxious, like Terror Radius builds with like Wesker and Doctor that you can do that are pretty miserable and really awful to face. I think he's more talking about like Scratch Mirror Myers, because Scratch Mirror Myers doesn't exist if it's not an indoor map. And yeah, I would want to preserve Scratch Mirror Myers, obviously, because that's just fun and kooky and it's not even that good. It's just a fun little gimmick. But like, I don't necessarily fully agree with like, oh, we'll just let killers have all the map offerings. Because like there are some pretty nasty setups you can do with killer or with map offerings as well. Like you see that all the time with like the try hard bone with like Nurse going to either Midwich or Macmillan so they can have easy matches. Like that's totally a thing. Play tiles out, so making these tiles that make no sense, like new auto haven. Dude, the new auto haven tile, the U-wall and the unsafe palette, I don't even know what they were thinking. That literally, I have never seen a worse tile ever thought of. Like they added like the ornament tiles and that double long wall vault tile, and I'm like, I don't like those, but like, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world. That, the U-wall, and then just like the stupid little unsafe palette, I don't know what they were thinking. I don't like that on Survivor for obvious reasons, but I don't like it on Killer either, because it's like, it's super easy to win at that tile. So it's not even like I'm thinking, right? Like I don't even like actually like outplay them or something. You know, it's just there. Yeah.
Work for healing teammates and lose the ability to self-heal altogether. These are common ideas amongst the more try-hard killer community, but medkits are...
I want to say this before we get too carried away. My main issue with that is like, somebody's going to say this probably in the YouTube comments when I post this on YouTube. It's like, do you want survivors to all have super strong tiles? No. My issue with that specifically is that like it's a weighted system, and that tile, despite the palette being essentially useless, is counted as having a tile which is therefore considered like strong, you know, by the game, but by the way the game figures, you know, out what tiles it should place where. So it treats it like it puts something strong there, but that tile's not, that palette's useless. Not even as a threat. It's not, I would say a path tile is often more fine with, more useful than that thing. But it treats it as if it gave you a full strong tile with a palette, but that's not, obviously that's not what it is, right? It's weighted too much. That's what my point is.
Extremely important to the overall health of the game. For every survivor who isn't in a top tier survive with friends, removing med.
By the way, if you didn't know this, I know this is, I want to let him talk, but by the way, if you didn't notice, the double long wall also counts as having a palette for some reason. So if you ever get like a small, like a weaker map spawn as survivor, and you're wondering like where all the palettes are, the double long wall vault in the game is considered to be like a tiled palette, or like a paletted tile for some reason. I don't know if they just thought it was equivocal in strength or what, or if it's an accident, but apparently that's a thing. So, yeah.
It self-heals, or giving medkits self-care levels of healing speed legitimately risks killing the game.
Yeah.
It's that big of an issue. Because the biggest problem with
medkits are like the most common item I see.
You can't rely on your teammates.
Yep.
I asked about this on Twitter, and there seems to be a common sentiment that the speed of healing needs to have a hard cap.
Yeah.
A set healing time that cannot be passed with any combination. This makes a lot of sense because medkits aren't the only problem with healing speed. Survivors can use perks to heal incredibly fast as well. Plus, you get into even deeper water when you mix medkits with healing perks. A healing speed cap addresses all of these issues at the same time under one umbrella. The 16 to 24 second numbers got thrown around a bit, which I think is a good place to start. SK also had an interesting idea to put in some survivor strategy by making medkits with more charges heal slower. This way a survivor can choose a medkit with 3 heals, but they're going to have much slower healing speed over a medkit that can only heal 1 time. In addition, toolboxes or
that would be interesting. I would like that actually. That's actually a really good idea. I like that a lot. Because you could bring a brown medkit and heal super quickly, but that's just you. Or whoever you decided to heal. But if you want to bring like a ranger medkit and heal the whole team, it comes at a cost detriment. You can still heal everybody on the team, but it'd be like, you know, as if they were, you know, sitting in circle of healing by themselves, right? It's a good point, actually. I like that. Hey, Zeus, what's up? It's give you the ability to not bother a teammate for heals. Yeah, which is like, that's time in this game is gen time. Time not spent doing something is gen time. That could be somebody on a gen. You know, which is why Sloppy is, despite, you know, there being way stronger slowdown, still remains a very popular slowdown perk because healing slow is like taking a lot of time to heal is time that could be spent on a gen. So it remains in popularity despite there being better options like Eruption and Overcharge and all that stuff. Going to have the game spawn long wall into Shack and being forced not to chase. Yeah, like there just shouldn't be setups like that. There just shouldn't be setups like that. Like they need to police that stuff. They need to take the outliers of the game and kind of squish them down so we have like a middling area or like a median area that's like more reflective of the general way of play that the game exists and not like have those crazy outliers, you know. RG the game feel more fair. Yeah, it should be like I was saying earlier, like it's okay to have like more survivor sided maps or more killer sided maps, but I feel like the killer sided maps are aggressively so and the survivor sided maps are aggressively so, right? Like, getting a nurse on Midwich, absolutely miserable. Getting sent to Batum as an M1 killer, absolutely miserable. Like, it's too much, you know? It's too much, right? It's too much. So they need to, like, condense and kind of, like, try to make, like, rein them in, essentially, you know?
Repair speed in general could also use a similar hard cap, as more and more ways to finish gens faster are getting added to the game, possibly even including her. The important aspect of all of this to keep in mind though isn't really that survivors are healing way too fast in every match, it's that they can. And what I mean by that is if you're a survivor main and you're listening to this video and you're annoyed that filthy killer mains are wanting to nerf one of the only mechanics in the game that you can still rely on, relax. These changes are more or less designed to mitigate some really over-the-top combinations that the vast majority of survivor players rarely use. So if done right and behavior doesn't go over the top, you shouldn't see a massive difference in your ability to self-heal. Alright, so how do you all think behavior can fix this before it becomes a real actual problem? Should they focus on the blood web, nerf medkits in some way, or focus on map design first before getting into the finer balance issues? Let me know, and as always, thanks for watching and have a good one.
I agree with him. I feel like the next big thing that they should do is the like, you know how we did the big mid chapter to change the perks? Our next huge giant mid chapter, like our next huge overhaul that the company does, should be the maps. Like that should be their next huge project. That would be my take. Is like they need to finally nip this map stuff in the butt because it's been a problem for so long. And it's something both sides agree on. Like that's something both sides agree on. Both sides hate the map design in this game for the most part. So I feel like that would do a lot of good to just take one of those giant mid chapters, like they said, and yeah, take one of those giant mid chapters and actually rehaul all the maps to be more fair. Like really take a look at like pallet count and how many main buildings each map has and all this stuff. Like that should be their next big project, I think.